What if I told you that the biggest thing standing between you and the life you want is not a lack of talent, not a lack of opportunity, and not even a lack of motivation? What if the real difference between the life you have today and the life you dream about is your ability to do what needs to be done when you do not feel like doing it? Think about that. Because motivation is easy when everything is going your way. Motivation is easy when you wake up excited, when people are encouraging you, when results are coming quickly, and when your dream feels close. But what happens when the excitement disappears? What happens when you wake up tired? What happens when nobody supports you? What happens when you work for weeks and nothing seems to change? What happens when you fail? What happens when the goal that once inspired you suddenly feels like a burden? That is where your real journey begins, because anybody can move when they are inspired. But the person who keeps moving when inspiration disappears is the person who eventually separates themselves from the crowd. You do not need motivation every day. You need discipline. Motivation can get you started, but discipline keeps you moving. Motivation can make you excited about your future, but discipline makes you work for it. Motivation can make you set the goal, but discipline makes you get up early, stay focused, make sacrifices, and keep going long after the excitement has disappeared. And if you understand this one principle deeply, it can change the direction of your entire life. You are not going to feel motivated every day. Accept that. There will be mornings when your alarm goes off and the last thing you want to do is get out of bed. There will be afternoons when your energy is gone. There will be evenings when you look at your goals and wonder whether all this effort is worth it. There will be days when you question yourself. There will be days when you compare yourself to someone who seems to be moving faster. There will be days when you make mistakes. There will be days when you fail. There will be days when your progress feels invisible. And if your entire life depends on feeling motivated, you will stop every time your emotions change. But if your life is built on discipline, you can continue. That is the difference. Discipline does not ask, do I feel like doing this? Discipline asks, does this need to be done? And if the answer is yes, you do it. That is how lives change. Not through one massive decision, not through one magical opportunity, not through waiting for the perfect moment. Lives change through small decisions repeated consistently. One early morning, one workout, one page, one phone call, 1 hour of focused work, $1 saved. One temptation resisted, one excuse rejected, one more day of showing up, and then another and another. Until one day you look back and realize that those small decisions became a completely different life. Most people want the result, but they do not want the repetition that produces the result. They want financial freedom without financial discipline. They want a strong body without physical discipline. They want success without the uncomfortable work required to create it. They want confidence without keeping promises to themselves. They want achievement without sacrifice. They want the harvest without planting the seeds, but life does not work that way. You cannot negotiate with reality. If you want something different, you have to do something different. And if you keep doing what you have always done, you will continue producing what you have always produced. Your future does not care what you intended to do. Your future is built from what you repeatedly do. That is why discipline is so powerful. Discipline takes your dreams out of your imagination and puts them into your daily schedule. A dream says, someday I want to be successful. Discipline says, today I will work. A dream says, someday I want financial freedom. Discipline says, today I will control my spending, improve my skills, and create more value. A dream says, someday I want to become healthier. Discipline says, today I will train, eat intelligently, and keep going. A dream says, someday I want to build something meaningful. Discipline says, today I will begin. Do you see the difference? A dream is a destination. Discipline is the vehicle. And no matter how beautiful the destination is, you are not getting there without the vehicle. You have probably experienced this before. You started something with tremendous enthusiasm. Maybe you decided to exercise. The first few days were exciting. You imagined the person you were going to become. You made the plan. You felt unstoppable. Then something happened. You became tired. You missed one day. Then another. Eventually, the goal disappeared into the background. The same thing happens with studying. The same thing happens with business. The same thing happens with saving money. The same thing happens with personal growth. The problem was not that you had no desire. The problem was that you depended on desire. Desire changes, discipline remains, your emotions change. Your commitment can remain, your circumstances change, your standards can remain. And when you build your life around standards instead of moods, everything changes. You have to reach a point where certain things are simply non-negotiable. You do not negotiate with yourself about whether you are going to keep your word. You said you would do it, so you do it. Not because it is always easy, because you decided. That is one of the most powerful words you can use, decided. Not I hope, not I might, not I'll try. Decided. Once you truly decide, you stop looking for reasons to quit. You start looking for ways to continue. And this is where many people misunderstand discipline. They think discipline means living a miserable life. No, discipline is not about making your life smaller. Discipline is about making your future bigger. You sacrifice something today so you can gain something greater tomorrow. You sacrifice an hour of entertainment to build a skill. You sacrifice unnecessary spending to build financial security. You sacrifice comfort to build strength. You sacrifice distractions to build focus. You sacrifice excuses to build self-respect. Discipline is simply the ability to choose what you want most over what you want right now. And that is one of the greatest abilities you can develop, because your life is constantly asking you one question: what do you want more? Do you want another hour of scrolling, or do you want the skill that could change your career? Do you want another excuse, or do you want the result? Do you want temporary comfort, or do you want long-term freedom? Do you want to protect your ego, or do you want to learn from failure? Do you want to remain where you are, or do you want to become someone greater? Every day, your choices answer those questions, and nobody else can answer them for you. You have to decide. There will always be distractions. There will always be entertainment. There will always be people telling you that you are working too hard. There will always be someone saying, relax, you can do it tomorrow. And sometimes you should rest. But you have to know the difference between rest and avoidance. Rest restores you. Avoidance delays you. Rest prepares you to continue. Avoidance gives you another excuse to quit. You must learn to recognize the difference, because your mind is incredibly talented at creating explanations for why you should not do difficult things. It will tell you that you are tired. It will tell you that tomorrow will be better. It will tell you that you need more information. It will tell you that you are not ready. It will tell you that someone else has an advantage. It will tell you that you should wait, but sometimes you have to stop listening to every thought that enters your mind. You are not required to obey every emotion. You are not required to obey every impulse. You are not required to believe every negative thought. You can feel fear and still move. You can feel tired and still take one step. You can feel uncertain and still begin. You can feel discouraged and still continue. That is discipline. It is not the absence of uncomfortable feelings. It is the decision to act despite them. And the more you practice this, the stronger you become. Every time you do something difficult that you promised yourself you would do, you send a message to your mind: I can trust myself. Think about how powerful that is. Confidence is not simply something you think. Confidence is something you build. You build it through evidence. You tell yourself you will wake up early, and you do it, evidence. You tell yourself you will exercise, and you do it evidence. You tell yourself you will finish the project and you finish it. Evidence, slowly, your mind begins to understand this person keeps promises and that person is you. That is where real confidence comes from. Not pretending you are perfect, not repeating empty words, but proving to yourself through action that you can rely on yourself. And once you trust yourself, you become difficult to stop. Because now you no longer need someone to push you. You can push yourself. You no longer need applause. You can continue without it. You no longer need immediate results. You can wait. You no longer need perfect circumstances. You can work with what you have. But understand something important. You do not become disciplined by making one enormous decision. You become disciplined by winning small battles. Your life is built from small battles, the battle to get out of bed, the battle to stay focused, the battle to put the phone away, the battle to finish what you started, the battle to control your spending, the battle to stop complaining, the battle to keep learning, the battle to keep going when results are slow. Every time you win one of those battles, you strengthen the person you are becoming. You do not have to win every battle perfectly, but you have to keep fighting. You may fail, you may miss a day, you may lose focus. You may make a terrible decision, you may fall back into an old habit. That does not mean the journey is over. One mistake is not failure. Quitting because of the mistake is the real failure. If you fall, get up. If you miss a day, return the next day. If you lose momentum, rebuild it. If you make the wrong decision, make a better one next. Do not allow one bad chapter to convince you that the entire book is finished. You are still writing, and you have more control over the next page than you realize. Maybe you have wasted years. Maybe you have made decisions you regret. Maybe you started before and quit. Maybe people around you have lost confidence in you. Maybe you have lost confidence in yourself. But none of that changes the power of today. Today is still available. This moment is still available. The next decision is still available. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is enough. Enough excuses, enough waiting, enough blaming, enough starting over every Monday. Enough telling yourself that you will become disciplined someday. Start now, not because you feel ready, because you are tired of remaining the same. You have to understand that your future is being built whether you participate consciously or not. Every day you are becoming someone. The question is, who are you becoming? Every habit is shaping you. Every choice is shaping you. Every hour is shaping you. Every piece of information you consume is influencing your thinking. Every excuse you repeat becomes easier to believe. Every disciplined action becomes easier to repeat. So be careful what you practice, because you are becoming very good at whatever you repeatedly do. If you repeatedly procrastinate, you become better at procrastination. If you repeatedly complain, complaining becomes automatic. If you repeatedly quit, quitting becomes easier. But if you repeatedly show up, showing up becomes normal. If you repeatedly focus, focus becomes stronger. If you repeatedly keep your promises, discipline becomes part of your identity. This is why you should stop asking, how do I become successful? Start asking, what would the disciplined version of me do today? Then do that. Not someday, today. What would that person do this morning? What would that person refuse to waste time on? What would that person do when the alarm rings? What would that person do when criticism arrives? What would that person do after failure? What would that person do when nobody is watching? Your identity is built through your answers. You are not waiting to become that person. You are becoming that person through your decisions. And here is something you must understand about success. Success is often incredibly boring. People want the exciting story. They want the dramatic breakthrough. They want the overnight success. But most meaningful success is created through repetition, the same work. The same habits, the same standards, the same commitment, again and again and again. That is why discipline is so rare. People get bored. They want a new strategy, a new method, a new opportunity, a new motivational video, a new plan. But sometimes you do not need a new plan. You need to execute the old plan. You do not need another 100 ideas. You need to act on the one good idea you already have. You do not need another motivational speech. You need to take action after the speech ends, because inspiration without implementation is entertainment. You can watch motivational videos for years and remain exactly where you are. You can read hundreds of books and remain stuck. You can learn every strategy and still fail to move forward. Why? Because knowledge does not produce results until it becomes action. The world does not reward what you know. It rewards what you do with what you know. So when this speech ends, do not simply feel inspired. Use that feeling as a trigger for action. Choose one thing you have been avoiding, one thing you know you need to do, and do it. Make the call, start the project, open the book, doctorate the budget. Apply for the opportunity, have the difficult conversation, turn off the distractions. Do something that your future self will thank you for, because your future self is waiting for the decisions you make today. Imagine meeting yourself 5 years from now. What would you want that person to say? Would you want them to say, thank you for staying disciplined when it was difficult? Thank you for not giving up. Thank you for learning that skill. Thank you for protecting your time. Thank you for controlling your money. Thank you for continuing when nobody noticed. Or would you want them to say, why did you keep waiting? Why did you keep making excuses? Why did you waste so much time? Why did you know what to do and refuse to do it? You are writing that conversation right now. Your future self is being created by today's choices. So make choices that future you can respect. This does not mean you must become perfect. Forget perfection. Perfection is another form of procrastination. You do not need to do everything perfectly. You need to do the important things consistently. A mediocre effort repeated consistently can produce extraordinary results. A perfect effort performed once produces almost nothing. Consistency beats intensity. You can work for 12 hours one day and disappear for 2 weeks, or you can work for 2 focused hours every day. The second person will usually go farther, because success is not about how hard you can push once. It is about how consistently you can move forward. And consistency becomes much easier when you stop relying on motivation, doctrate routines, doctrate standards, doctrate systems. Decide ahead of time what you will do. If you have to make a new decision every day about whether you are going to work, you give your emotions too much power. But if you establish a routine, the decision has already been made. At a certain time, you work. At a certain time, you exercise. At a certain time, you learn. At a certain time, you rest. This is how you reduce negotiation with yourself. You make discipline automatic. And remember, you do not have to transform your entire life overnight. Start small. If you cannot exercise for an hour, exercise for 15 minutes. If you cannot read 50 pages, read 10. If you cannot work for 4 hours, work for 30 focused minutes. If you cannot save a large amount, save something. If you cannot change everything, change one thing. But do not use small as an excuse to do nothing. Small is powerful when repeated. A single brick does not look like a house. But keep laying bricks, and eventually there is a structure. Your habits are the bricks. Your future is the structure. What are you building? And what are you building every day? Because you are building something. You may be building confidence or insecurity. You may be building strength or weakness. You may be building freedom or dependence. You may be building discipline or excuses. You are always building. The question is whether you are building deliberately. And if you want a different life, you must be willing to become a different person. Not a fake person, a stronger version of yourself, someone who can tolerate discomfort, someone who can delay gratification, someone who can say no, someone who can stay focused, someone who can finish, someone who can recover from failure, someone who does not need constant approval, someone who does not need perfect conditions, someone who knows that the price of success is paid through consistent effort. You cannot have the results of discipline while living the habits of distraction. You cannot expect extraordinary results from ordinary commitment. At some point, you have to raise your standards. And raising your standards means deciding what you will no longer tolerate from yourself. You will no longer tolerate constantly procrastinating. You will no longer tolerate wasting hours on things that do not matter. You will no longer tolerate giving your best energy to distractions and your leftover energy to your dreams. Your dream deserves your best. Your future deserves your best. You deserve your best. And that does not mean you need to be working every second. It means that when it is time to work, you work. When it is time to rest, you rest. When it is time to learn, you learn. When it is time to act, you act. That is discipline. You are not a machine. You will have difficult days. You will have emotional days. You will need rest. But never confuse a difficult day with a defeated life. You can have a bad day and still have a great future. You can fail today and still succeed tomorrow. You can feel weak and still make a strong decision. You can be afraid and still move forward. This is what separates the people who eventually achieve their goals from those who simply talk about them. They understand that feelings are temporary. Commitment is a choice. And sometimes the most important thing you can do is keep going when there is no immediate reward for doing so. There will be seasons when your work feels invisible. You will plant seeds and see nothing. You will work and wonder where the results are. You will make sacrifices that nobody notices, and people may not understand. Let them. You do not need everyone to understand your discipline. You need to understand your purpose. A farmer does not dig up the seed every morning to check whether it is growing. He plants it. He waters it. He protects it. He waits. He continues. And eventually, something appears. Your goals work the same way. Do the work. Give it time. Keep improving. Do not destroy your progress because you are impatient with the process. The fact that you cannot see the result does not mean nothing is happening. Growth often happens beneath the surface before it becomes visible. Your job is to keep showing up, keep planting, keep learning, keep building, keep moving. And one day, the results will begin to catch up with the effort. But even then, discipline cannot stop because success is not only about reaching the next level. It is about becoming capable of staying there. You do not want temporary success. You want the character that can sustain success. You want habits that continue after the applause disappears. You want standards that remain after the goal is achieved. You want to become the kind of person who does not need a crisis to become disciplined. You become disciplined before you need discipline. That is how you prepare, and eventually you will discover something beautiful. The things that once required tremendous willpower become normal. Waking early becomes normal. Working consistently becomes normal. Saving becomes normal. Learning becomes normal. Exercising becomes normal. Saying no becomes normal. Protecting your attention becomes normal. You stop seeing discipline as something you are forcing yourself to do. It becomes simply who you are. And that is when your life begins to change faster, because now you are no longer fighting yourself every day. Your habits support your goals. Your schedule supports your priorities. Your identity supports your behavior. And suddenly, the future that once looked impossible begins to look possible, not because you became lucky, because you became consistent. So let me ask you something. What have you been waiting for? What goal have you been delaying? What promise have you been breaking? What task have you been avoiding? What habit do you know is hurting your future? What decision have you been postponing? Maybe you already know the answer. Maybe you have known for months. Maybe you have known for years. Then stop waiting. You do not need another sign. You do not need another perfect morning. You do not need another motivational quote. You need action. Your life can change with one decision, not because that decision magically solves everything, but because one decision can change the direction of your next action. And the next action changes the next, and the next direct matters more than speed. You do not need to sprint. You need to stop walking in the wrong direction, turn around, take the next step, then another and another. If you are watching this while feeling stuck, understand this. Being stuck does not mean you are finished. Being behind does not mean you cannot catch up. Starting late does not mean you cannot build something extraordinary. You may not control where you began, but you have influence over where you go next. And your next step does not need to impress anybody. It only needs to move you forward. This is your reminder. Stop waiting for motivation. Stop waiting to feel ready. Stop waiting for confidence. Stop waiting for perfect conditions. Start with discipline. Do the thing, then do it again. And when you do not feel like doing it, do it anyway. That is where transformation begins. One day, you will look back at the version of yourself who struggled to stay consistent. You will remember the mornings you wanted to quit. You will remember the nights you wanted to give up. You will remember the moments when nobody believed. And you will realize that those moments were not blocking your success. They were building you for it. The difficult days were training. The setbacks were training. The failures were training. The lonely seasons were training. The moments when you had to encourage yourself were training. The days when you had to move without motivation were training. Every time you continued, you became stronger. Every time you kept your word, you became more trustworthy to yourself. Every time you resisted an excuse, you strengthened your discipline. And eventually, you became someone who could handle the life you were asking for, because sometimes the goal is not the first thing that needs to change. You must become capable of carrying the responsibility of the future you desire. You want more success? Become more disciplined. You want more freedom? Become more responsible. You want more confidence? Keep more promises to yourself. You want better results? Develop better habits. Your future is not built by wishing for a better life. It is built by becoming the person capable of creating one. So today, make a decision, not an emotional promise that disappears tomorrow. A decision. Decide that you will stop allowing temporary feelings to control permanent goals. Decide that you will stop trading your future for temporary comfort. Decide that you will do the work even when nobody is applauding. Decide that you will keep going when the results are slow. Decide that failure will teach you instead of define you. Decide that you will become someone you can trust, and then prove it. Not with words, with action. Tomorrow morning, when the alarm rings, prove it. When the distraction appears, prove it. When the excuse arrives, prove it. When the work becomes difficult, prove it. When the results are slow, prove it. When nobody is watching, prove it. You do not need the world to see. You need yourself to see, because every disciplined action is a vote for the person you want to become, and every excuse is a vote for the person you are trying to leave behind. Choose carefully. Your life is listening. Your future is listening. And every day you are casting votes. So vote for strength. Vote for courage. Vote for discipline. Vote for consistency. Vote for the future. There is a version of you that is stronger than you think. There is a version of you that wakes up early, that finishes what they start, that controls their attention, that protects their time, that learns every day. That works without applause. That does not quit because something is difficult. That person is not somewhere far away. That person is created through your next decision, and then the next, and then the next. You do not become disciplined by thinking about discipline. You become disciplined by practicing it. So practice. Today, do one difficult thing. Do one thing you have been avoiding. Keep one promise you have been breaking. Reject one excuse. Complete one task. Take one step. Then tomorrow, repeat it. And eventually, you will discover that you are no longer the person who constantly says, I need motivation. You will become the person who says, I have decided. And when you decide, you move. When you move, you build momentum. When you build momentum, you build confidence. When you build confidence, you raise your standards. When you raise your standards, you change your habits. When you change your habits, you change your results. And when you change your results consistently, you change your life. That is the power of discipline. It does not promise you an easy road. It gives you the strength to walk a difficult one. It does not eliminate failure. It teaches you how to recover from it. It does not make every day exciting. It makes every day meaningful. It does not guarantee that you will get everything you want. It makes you capable of earning what you are willing to work for. And perhaps most importantly, discipline gives you something motivation never can. Freedom, freedom from your excuses, freedom from your impulses, freedom from constant procrastination, freedom from being controlled by temporary emotions, freedom to decide what your life will become. So the next time you wake up and do not feel motivated, remember this: you do not need to feel like it. You need to remember why it matters. You do not need to see the entire road. You need to take the next step. You do not need everyone to believe in you. You need to stop abandoning yourself. You do not need to be perfect. You need to become consistent. And you do not need to transform your entire life today. You simply need to make today's decision worthy of the future you want. Because motivation will come and go, feelings will rise and fall, circumstances will change. People will enter and leave your life. Some days will be easy, some days will be brutally difficult. But if you develop discipline, you have something inside you that remains when everything else changes. You have a standard, you have a commitment, you have a reason, you have a direction, and you keep moving. Remember this when you are tempted to quit. The difficult day is not the day that destroys your future. The difficult day is the day that gives you an opportunity to strengthen it. The day you do not feel like working is the day discipline becomes real. The day you want to quit is the day your commitment gets tested. The day nobody believes is the day you get to decide whether you believe enough to continue. And the day progress seems invisible is the day you must remember that seeds grow before trees become visible. Keep going. Your work is not wasted. Your effort is not meaningless. Every early morning matters. Every sacrifice matters. Every focused hour matters. Every time you say no to distraction matters. Every time you get back up matters. You are building something. Keep building, and one day you will stand in a place that once existed only in your imagination. You will look around and realize that the life you wanted did not arrive by accident. It was built through mornings when you were tired. It was built through nights when you wanted to quit. It was built through decisions nobody saw. It was built through sacrifices nobody applauded. It was built through failures that forced you to become stronger. It was built through discipline. And then you will understand something that you could not understand at the beginning of the journey. Motivation was never supposed to carry you all the way. It was only supposed to show you what was possible. Discipline was the bridge. Discipline carried you through the days when the dream looked impossible. Discipline carried you through the silence. Discipline carried you through the setbacks. Discipline carried you through uncertainty. Discipline carried you when motivation disappeared. And that is why you must stop asking yourself whether you feel motivated. Ask yourself whether you are committed. Because motivation asks, do I feel like doing this? Discipline says, I said I would. Motivation says, maybe tomorrow. Discipline says, today. Motivation says, this is difficult. Discipline says, keep going. Motivation says, nobody is watching. Discipline says, I am watching. And perhaps that is the most important thing of all. When nobody else is watching, you are still watching. You know whether you showed up. You know whether you kept your word. You know whether you gave your best. You know whether you chose comfort or growth. And every night, you have to live with that person. So become someone you respect. Become someone you trust. Become someone who follows through. Become someone who does not need constant motivation, because the commitment is stronger than the mood. You have goals for a reason. You have dreams for a reason. You have potential for a reason. Do not let temporary discomfort convince you to abandon a permanent possibility. Do not trade the life you could build for the comfort of one lazy moment. Do not sacrifice your future for a feeling that will disappear tomorrow. Stand up, get focused, make the decision, do the work, and when motivation disappears, keep going. Because discipline will take you places motivation never could. It will take you beyond your excuses, beyond your comfort zone, beyond the opinions of other people, beyond the days when you feel weak, beyond the failures that tried to stop you, beyond the version of yourself that kept saying, someday. And eventually, discipline will take you to the place where your actions finally match your potential. So from this day forward, stop waiting to feel ready. Stop waiting to feel inspired. Stop waiting for somebody else to push you. Pliv yourself, wake up, show up, do the work. Keep the promise, take the step, then take another, and when you fall, get back up. When you fail, learn. When you get tired, rest, but do not quit. When you feel afraid, move anyway. When you feel discouraged, remember your reason. When you feel unmotivated, remember your commitment. And when the voice inside you says, you cannot do this, answer with an action. You do not need to prove yourself to everyone. You only need to prove to yourself that you can keep going, because the strongest person is not the person who never struggles. The strongest person is the person who struggles and continues. The person who gets knocked down and rises, the person who loses momentum and rebuilds it, the person who fails and learns, the person who feels fear and moves forward. The person who does not need perfect conditions to make progress, that person can become unstoppable, and that person can be you. Your next chapter does not require permission, it requires discipline. Your future does not require perfection, it requires consistency. Your dream does not require that you know every step, it requires that you take the next one. So take it today, take it when you are tired. Take it when nobody is watching, take it when the results are slow, take it when you are uncertain, take it when motivation is gone. Because every time you take another step, you are telling yourself, I am still here. I am still committed. I am not finished. And one day, those words will become your reality. You will look back and realize that the greatest decision you ever made was not waiting for motivation. It was choosing discipline. It was choosing to show up. It was choosing to keep going. It was choosing your future over your comfort. It was choosing to become the person your dreams required. So make that choice now, not tomorrow. Now, your future is waiting for the version of you who finally decides to stop negotiating with excuses. Your future is waiting for the version of you who gets up when the alarm rings. Your future is waiting for the version of you who finishes the work. Your future is waiting for the version of you who keeps going when the applause stops. Your future is waiting for the version of you who understands that greatness is not one giant act. It is thousands of small acts performed consistently, one decision, one habit, one morning, 1 hour, one step. One day at a time. And if you keep taking those steps, there will come a day when you no longer recognize the person you used to be, not because you became someone else, because you finally became the person you were capable of becoming all along. So remember this, whenever motivation fades, you are not required to feel ready. You are required to be committed. You are not required to feel powerful. You are required to keep moving. You are not required to know exactly how everything will work out. You are required to take the next step. You are not required to be perfect. You are required to refuse to quit. Motivation may light the fire, but discipline keeps it burning. Motivation may open the door, but discipline walks through it. Motivation may give you the dream, but discipline builds the life. And if you can learn to do what needs to be done, regardless of how you feel, you will possess one of the most powerful advantages a person can have. You will no longer be controlled by your moods. You will no longer be dependent on perfect conditions. You will no longer need constant encouragement. You will become your own source of forward movement. And once you become that person, you become incredibly difficult to stop. So go forward. Do the work, build the habit, protect your focus, keep your word, choose the hard thing when the hard thing is the right thing. Choose the future when the present is trying to distract you. Choose discipline when motivation disappears, because one day your current sacrifices will become your future freedom. Your current discipline will become your future confidence. Your current consistency will become your future success. And the person you are becoming today will eventually stand in the life you once dreamed about. When that day comes, you will understand that the breakthrough was not one magical moment. The breakthrough was every morning you got up, every time you said no, every time you started again, every time you kept going, every time you worked without applause, every time you chose discipline over motivation. That was the breakthrough. So do not quit today. Do not surrender because you are tired. Do not abandon the goal because the results are slow. Do not let one difficult season convince you that your entire future is hopeless. Keep going. Your story is not finished. Your best days are not behind you. Your greatest achievement may still be ahead, but you have to meet that future halfway, and you meet it through action, through consistency, through discipline, through the decision to keep moving when motivation cannot. So stand up, take responsibility, take control, make the decision, and then do the work, because motivation will not always be there, but you can be. Discipline will not always feel comfortable, but it will make you stronger. The road will not always be easy, but you can become stronger than the road. And when you finally understand that, you stop asking, how do I stay motivated? You start saying, I know what I want. I know why I want it. I know what I must do, and I will do it. That is discipline. That is commitment. That is how ordinary people build extraordinary lives. Not because they never get tired, not because they never fail, not because they never feel afraid, but because they keep going. And if you keep going long enough, keep learning long enough, keep improving long enough, keep showing up long enough, and keep your standards high enough, you may eventually discover that the biggest obstacle was never your circumstances. It was the moment you decided to stop. So do not stop, not here, not now. Not when you are this close to becoming someone stronger. Keep walking, keep building, keep believing, keep working, keep becoming. And whenever motivation disappears, remember the promise you made to your future self. Then get up and do what needs to be done, because motivation can start the journey, but discipline will take you where motivation can't.